I'm just sharing my screen. Now I would like Ms. Yashoda, Principal Jawahar Higher Secondary School, to please welcome the gathering. Ma'am, you will have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. A very pleasant good evening to one and all. The beginning is always now, said Roy T. Bennett. This wonderful evening has given me an opportunity to begin this session and welcoming you all to this wonderful webinar on the topic Childhood Care and Education, NEP, presented by the eminent speaker and former Director of Academics, CBSE, Mr. G. Balasubramanian. Early childhood education relates to teaching of children up to the age of 8. We all know that it is an important period in a child's development. Early childhood care and education is more than preparation for primary school. It aims at the holistic development of a child's social, emotional, cognitive, and physical needs in order to build a solid and broad foundation for lifelong learning and well-being. We are eagerly waiting for the wonderful opportunity and possibility to learn more about nurturing, caring, capable, and responsible future citizens. This phenomenal effort has been taken by Sahodaya School Complex, Puducherry, in coordination with Madhuban Educational Books, which is a leading Indian publisher offering a range of pedagogically sound textbooks and innovative digital resources from kindergarten throughout school. They have come forward to host this webinar on this important theme. Welcoming Mr. Madhuban's team who are hosting this wonderful session. Jawahar Higher Secondary School is rendering yeoman service in the field of education since 1963. It is a renowned institution and our alumni are spread wide across the globe holding the flag of Jawahar High. As a proud principal of this great institution, I am very much privileged in welcoming the resource person, Mr. G. Balasubramanian, former Director of Academics, CBSE, who has agreed to augment our knowledge on the topic. He is a mentor and guiding personality for many senior CBSE principals, including myself, sir. He is a strong advocate of stress-free education and has initiated several steps in this direction, and also has authored several books for teachers, academicians, and educational administrators. It is my proud privilege to welcome you, sir, for this occasion. Welcome, sir, please.
Thank you.
I have immense pleasure in welcoming Mrs. Alice Kistu, President Sahodaya Complex, Puducherry, the person behind this webinar, who is futuristic, versatile, and dynamic person. My hearty welcome to all the governing members. Earlier to that, I am very much delighted in welcoming Ms. G. Usharani, Mrs. G. Usharani, Secretary Sahodaya School Complex, Puducherry. She is an eminent, enthusiastic, and energetic personality. Welcoming you for this session, madam. My hearty and sincere welcome to all the governing members of Sahodaya, Puducherry, and distinguished members and beloved teachers and staff members who are participating in this program. Once again, I welcome one and all for this wonderful session. I thank you for the wonderful opportunity given. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would request Ms. Alice, President Sahodaya School Complex, Puducherry, to please talk few words about our speaker today, Balasubramanian, sir. Alice, ma'am, could you please unmute yourself? Yeah.
Good evening to everyone present here. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving those beautiful words of welcome. I have been given the honor for introducing Mr. G. Balasubramanian. And I'm sure if I ask anyone over here who hasn't heard from, Mr. G. Balasubramanian, I'm sure all of you are going to say you have heard somewhere or the other a lecture of him. I remember hearing many lectures of Sir, and he is so immense personality with so much of knowledge. And I don't know how we can stay, he has so much to share. In fact, the last time he was here with our Sahodaya, he was so full of knowledge that, he couldn't even contain himself. We are so happy, sir, that, you could come here once again and to take a very, very important topic that too. Well, sir is a short form called as GB. I always used to wonder, what is the meaning of this GB? They keep saying GB, sir. But today we have you here, sir, G. Balasubramanian. And he was born at Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu. And he had his initial schooling at Madurai. And he graduated in chemistry from Presidency College, Chennai. He also obtained his post-graduation in analytical and inorganic chemistry from Madras University, post-graduation in Hindi from Sri Venkateshwara University, and also post-graduation in education from Annamalai University. He also obtained a diploma in German from University of Madras, a certificate in project technology from Trent College of Education, Nottingham, UK, and a certificate in computer education from Leeds University, UK. He is certified master trainer for skills development from Glasgow, UK. Well, starting his career as postgraduate teacher in chemistry in a public school, he took over as a principal of Hindu Senior Secondary School, Chennai. He also joined, after that, the Central Board of Secondary Education as a joint secretary in 1984 and has worked in several capacities in academic, examination, confidential, and administration branches of CBSE. He was also elevated to the post of the Director Academics in 1997. He held the additional charge of the Chief Vigilance Officer of the board. He retired from the services of the board on 28th February 2006. But he has his own consultancy services under the banner Educational Systems and Innovations. And he has also been the chairman for Curriculum Reforms Committee and Examination Reforms Committee in the government of Tamil Nadu and facilitated smooth adoption of CCE in Tamil Nadu government schools. Well, he's also known for his innovation in curriculum development and interactive pedagogy. He has been instrumental to the introduction of several innovation in curriculum in CBSE, which includes frontline curriculum, communicative approach to language, teaching, informational technology, biotechnology, entrepreneurship, fashion studies, disaster management, life skill education, alternative to homeworks, amongst others. Well, sir, you're really a strong advocate for stress-free education, and definitely we are having a very good time this evening to hear from you, sir. Apart from that, he has a lot of interest in philosophy, psychology, poetry, and literature. He has also authored several books for schools in science and information technology. He has also authored several books for teachers and academics and educational administrators. We are so happy and glad, sir, that you are here with us this evening. And I'm sure this 1.5 hours that we're going to spend with you will have a great impact on all our teachers and other staff that has joined for this seminar. I'm so happy, sir, once again. In fact, while I was going through your resume, we have a little something in common. That is, we, have the same subject. I've also graduated from chemistry, sir. I finished my MSc in chemistry. And just now I have completed my doctorate in education in Annamalai University. Great. So it was interesting to go through yours also. So something a little common, and I feel proud, sir, that we have something in common. So thank you so much, sir, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now, without taking much time, I would pass on the digital floor to Mr. Balasubramanian, sir, for his insights on early childhood care and education.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. And it is indeed a great pleasure to be with all of you this evening. As a matter of fact, when I heard the welcome speech from Mrs. Yashoda, the principal of Jawahar Senior Secondary School, Neyveli, I grew younger by nearly 50 years, right? In just a moment, because down the memory lane, when I go back, I remember to have gone as the practical examiner of CBSE to Jawahar Vidyalaya, Neyveli in 71 or 72, when I had just started my career. So the memory of the school just made me very young in a moment or so. Thank you very much for all the kind words that all of you have spoken. And now let me straight walk into my program. And it's a very interesting program in the sense that, the topic is a very important and interesting topic, because mostly schools, teachers, principals, everybody addresses to the needs of the school, branding a school, more on the performance of students in class 10 and class 12. Not much is said about, not much is talked about the early childhood education. As a matter of fact, my personal feeling has always been that early childhood care, and the primary wing of a school is the real brand of the school, because that's a message that the school sends to the community about what their objectives of education are. And if you look into the national policy of education, right from 1947, when you had the Mudaliar Commission, and subsequently where, you had the Radhakrishnan Commission, you had the Kothari report, and you got a national policy in 1986, then you had a program of action in 1992, you had a new curricular framework in 2005, and so on there. But in all these places, the kind of emphasis that was made on earlier childhood education was not as much as you would have seen in the current national education policy. So to me, I believe that the flagship message of the current NEP is on the early childhood, because which is reflected in the very terminology used by the current NEP, that we are moving from early childhood education to early childhood care and education. This care is a very important word, because the first few slides I will be talking is about why this particular change, because all that what you are going to in school will be based on the word care that we are going to have. My immediate memory goes to a very interesting statement made by Rabindranath Tagore, who said, "Every child comes with a message that God is not a discourager of man." Therefore, the entire faith of the humanity, the entire faith of the future lies in the hope and faith the child brings along with him or with her. Therefore, the importance of child education is something which is very, very important. As a matter of fact, celebration, the childhood is a celebration. It is not a period of education. It is a period of celebration. It's a period of joy. It's a period of confusion and curiosity. And no wonder, your Valluvar said, "Kudalinidi yadinidi enbadam makkal madalai chul keladavar." What a beautiful statement. We call this madalai chul in English as what's called babbling, right? And a lot of research has been done about the babbling by the neurocognitive psychologists, who find that the words or the sounds uttered by the children in these years is the real indication of the growth profile of the brain of the children for the future to come. So the point basically is the celebration of Babel. A great psychologist, Dr. V.S. Ramachandra, in his book on mind, he has written a whole chapter on babbling by the children. Right, so that very much indicates the importance of the early childhood education. So when the question arises, when do we really start learning at this point of time, right? So normally we think that education or learning starts at the school level, but it's not true, because there are two departments both in the Stanford University as well as in the California University and the Priest University and other places, where there are departments of what you call prenatal cognitive psychology. That means prenatal, before birth. They have come to a conclusion that the learning process starts right from the 8th week of conception of the mother. In other words, the child starts absorbing the emotional aspects of the mother, and therefore the growth profile of the child is linked to the mother's nutritional system, mental faculties, as well as the intellectual and emotional faculties, right? Sorry. And a very interesting anecdote, that a Jewish mother approached a sage and asked him, "When should I begin the education of my child?" Now, "How old is the youngster?" asked the sage. She said, "5 months old." Now the sage said, "You are already 14 months late," right? So that very clearly indicates the fact that the learning is a very important thing. Now, even in our early ages, both in India, where we talked about in all our Puranic stories of how the children, whether it was Abhimanyu or Prahalada, when they learned in the mother's womb. Such a phenomena has been described all over the world, in all religions, in all cultures, in all nativities, it is said. Therefore, learning is, right from the days of conception, you have started. And it's a very interesting anecdote which I wanted to bring to you, that in Africa, there is a tribe, and a very interesting thing I would like you to read, that this tribe talks about the baby before conception, right? They count the birth date of a child not from the day of the physical birth or conception. The birth date is fixed by the first time the mother thinks of the child in her mind. So when a woman intends to conceive a child with a particular father, she sits alone under a tree. There she listens to until she hears the song of the child who wants to be born to her. Once she has heard it, she teaches it to the father, and then they can sing together as they make love, inviting the child to join. After the conception, mother sings it to the baby in her womb. She teaches it to the old woman, midwives of the village, so that the child is greeted with this song throughout the labor and the birth. After the birth, all the villagers learn the song and for the new member and sing it to the child. You wouldn't believe, just like in our some film songs where we got a family song. Similarly, this particular song is sung right from the birth of the child to the period when the child grows as an old man and dies. So you can see the kind of continuity that you have got in the learning profile, in the existential profile of the learner, right? So the psychologists very clearly say that womb ecology becomes the world ecology. In other words, how the child is nurtured in the mother's womb is very important, because the way the child grows in an ecosystem later is linked to the way the baby is brought in the womb. And no wonder the psychologists say, the research says that the child can remember and recognize the mother's voice even before they are born. Their research findings have been published in the International Journal of Psychological Sciences. So why I'm narrating all these things is that our idea of learning must expand, because we cannot link learning only to the textbooks or technology. Learning is a personalized phenomena. Learning is an emotive phenomena, and learning happens with life. And therefore, there is the babies, the very interesting statement says, I'm sorry, the babies show their reactions, assaults, injuries, irritations, and medically infected pain. All these have been recorded in the mother's womb through scientific phenomena, and the cognitive competencies of child have also been demonstrated by various countries and various researchers there. So the word early childhood care has a lot of meaning. It is not that you have added one more word. So the early childhood care starts not from the time the child is admitted in the school, but it starts right from the mother's womb. And no wonder you'll be surprised that for the first time in the national education policy, we are talking of education in the 0 to 3 years. What a very interesting thing, right? In all these days, we talk of education only from class 1. The policies are addressed only from what do you call 1 to class 12. Now then slowly we move to K-12 system. But now we talk about in the recent policy, we talk about 0 to 3 years, though the schools may not be able to contribute much, but the role of parents, the role of the mother, the role of the family, the role of the society for bringing up the children in the 0 to 3 years is very important, because it is not a family phenomena, but it is a social phenomena. It is a commitment of a nation to grow, competent children. So remember that all these emotional, ingredients facilitate to the child both the pain and the pleasure when the mother in the mother's womb. And then the research also indicates that how the criminals are designed in the mother's womb. That's one of the reasons when the women folk are in the family's way, people say that they need a very good environment, they need a very happy environment, and that their thought processes have got to be very comfortable. And researchers have indicated that some of the violent behaviors by the children who have been delivered and the primary level are linked to some of the stressful experiences the mother has undergone during the time of conception. So all these indicate that the brain of the child is fit for learning right from the mother's womb. As you might have seen some of these pictures in my earlier programs, if you have attended, you would see here, these are all the pictures of the fetus in the mother's womb. The first three indicate something around 5 to 6 months, and later around 7 months, you could see the baby smiling, the fetus rather, I would call the baby, fetus sucking the thumb, the fetus smiling, the fetus yawning, and the fetus almost crying. And that's a very clear indicator. I've got more than 300 pictures which indicate that. So all these I'm trying to communicate to you just to make your understanding that learning is much more deep, insightful phenomena rather than the delivery in the classroom. So the question arises, who is the first teacher and who is the first school? So the basic thing is the mother is the first teacher and the home is the first school, right? Right. So the environment of learning at the house has got to be very important. Now, I would like to say the role of a mother is very, very significant. As a matter of fact, the researchers have indicated that the language competencies of the children, they come more from the mother. For example, when the baby is born, after a few months, 3 months or 4 months, or even 6 months later, the mother holds the baby on the hand, and then the mother smiles, and the child responds with a smile, and the mother says ma, and then the child says ma, mother says pa, and the child repeats. All these are what you call learning interactions between the mother and the child. So psychologists have said facial interaction between the mother and the baby is important, because something called the mirror neurons in the brain are responsible for learning. That's responsible for peer learning, social learning, and also right from the birth to death, the learning through to mirror neurons is very important. As a matter of fact, researchers have also indicated that inadequacy of the mirror neurons in the brain might lead to, in terms of ADHD or other brain disorders over here, because the ability of the child to connect to people, the ability of the child to relate to people is caused by the deficiency of the mirror neurons. So the mother's role is very important there. So very often when people question whether a child should be interviewed in the school or not by the time of admission, well, it may be politically a very debatable point, but an understanding of the profile of the mother and father by a principal or the teacher of the school would go a long way in what you call communicating with the child and doing that. Okay. So that leads to, I just talked to you about that. One more information before I pass to the NPE is that the question arises whether the learning behavior of the boy and the girl differ. Well, overall, the general perception is that whether it's a male child or a female child, the brain behaviors are normally uniform over there. But nevertheless, there are certain basic differences, about the right brain behavior and the left brain behavior. Some indicators are always there, and the cognitive competencies also have, light differences. For example, the female children are more comfortable with language. Their communicability is very high. Their broad spectrum of cognition is good as compared to the boys who have got a more logical approach over there. Not that the others don't have, but I'm saying only dominant factors in terms of the brain. So a lot of research has also gone into that. But nevertheless, as teachers in the school, we deal with all of them at par. But as a teacher, as a principal, I've always found that my girl children in the school are more communicative, are comfortable with language, and that could be attributed to the what do you call brain behavior right from the birth of the child, right? So as the child grows up, a very important stage comes through that around the fourth, fifth month, the child starts crawling. And it is said that crawling is a very, very important aspect of the learning behavior. Right? When I talk about early childhood care, this is a very important thing that as both as parents, as teachers, as principals, as counselors, you must be able to communicate this idea to people that a child which crawls has got to be encouraged to crawl more and more, because it is not a mere action of crawling, that the right brain and the left brain are linked to each other, and the mobility of the right side empowers the left brain, and the mobility on the left side empowers the right brain, and therefore there is what is called a lateralization of the right brain and the left brain. Therefore, children who crawl more are supposed to be having what do you call more emotional competencies, and their emotional intelligence appears to be higher. And this is not only for children. Now the psychologists say that even if you are 40, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. Close your room and crawl for 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening, so that lateralization of the brain will help in reducing the possibilities of dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, and all that. There are enough researchers to indicate that. So early childhood care has got a very long-standing impact even at the later years over there. Then the stage comes to what is called training the baby to walk. I think this is where the real learning phenomena starts over there. Why I'm saying is you will find that there are no species, no animal species where the mother or the father train the child to get up or to walk. And they take, in a couple of seconds, they stand up and start walking. They make their own effort. For them, it is a self-learning process. Whereas in the humankind, the mother catches hold of the child, father catches hold and says, come on, walk, 1, 2, 3. In other words, remember, the word that we use for this is training the child to walk. So this is where I want you to understand the difference between learning and training, right? Now, in the human system, right, training is a very important, takes a very important place. But unfortunately, training is slightly antithesis to learning. Training creates a dependency, and therefore, if you overdo the training with the children, their dependency on the parents and the environment will increase more. Right? Therefore, we must know. Sorry for a second. We must know that we should draw a line between training as well as the learning. Right? A teacher in the school, whether it is in a primary class, when you write the question answers on the book and tell the children that this is going to come in the exam, you are really killing the brain of the child. Now, while walking, the child fumbles down, falls down, and learns. I think experience is the most important aspect of learning, and that's why we say experiential learning is important. Don't think of experiential learning given by CBSE for 9th and 10th class. Experiential learning is integrated right from the birth onwards, right from the first few steps the child takes off, right? And then we start slowly relating the performance of a child to the phenomena of success and the failure. For example, you imagine a child of 5 years or 6 years doing a cycling. How many times the child falls in the cycle, but nevertheless, parents don't worry about it. They say, if you are to learn cycle, you will fall 10 times, then only you will learn. But if the child doesn't do well in mathematics, the parents get upset. Though learning of cycle and learning of mathematics have got the same phenomena, but the parents get upset when the child doesn't pass in mathematics. Because remember, when the child goes on cycling, the objective is not there. The objective is not any expectation from the parent. Whereas when it comes to mathematics, the parents believe, I have invested in the child, therefore I expect a return on that. So remember that in the learning, one is conditional learning, the other is unconditional learning. In unconditional learning, adventurism is there, psychological challenges are there, emotional turbulences are there, but the learning is a very sound phenomena. So when you talk of an early childhood care, it is very important that, unless otherwise there are safety concerns involved, you must let the child to experiment. You must let the child to grow, right? So the statement before I walk into how the policy is saying is that by Fuller, who was a great the German psychologist and educator. He said, all children are born genius, and we spend the first 6 years of their life de-geniusing them. It's a very, very powerful statement. Now, what do we do? Even at home or in the school, always we tell the child, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. We never say, do this. Therefore, all our learning passages are, created by roadblocks over there. Now, we don't say why you should not do it. So, what seems to be important in the early childhood education and care is a positive approach to learning rather than a negative approach to learning. This is a more so in Indian environment. This negative environment has come along through, probably because we have carried it through a culture that my child should be obedient to me, my child should be listening to me, my child should be subservient to me. Well, I think that's where we need to relook into our relationship profile, relationship management with the children. Therefore, friends, remember that the brain is poorly designed for formal instruction, right? Instruction, it's not at all designed for instruction. It is designed for challenge, experience, adventurism, and thereby learning. The networking of the brain takes place only when through such things, through rote learning, through teacher-inducted learning, that the networks which are formed in the brain are very volatile, and they they are lost very quickly, and that's why we talk about memory, forgetting, whatnot. So when experiential learning takes place, you find that the networking is very strong, and it becomes a lifelong phenomena. Therefore, when you come to Montessori method of learning, where you talk about hands-on experiences, where you talk about what you call experiential learning, that's a very significant phenomena for the simple reason that that creates stronger networks in the brain, right? So we have several models of primary education today, right? We have got early childhood education, Montessori model. So many models have internationally come across, but you find basically all of them have got one and the only objective of facilitating learning. So my only appeal to all the teachers here, when we talk about early childhood care, you must eliminate the word teaching a child. You must say facilitating learning a child, right? Or for example, even when you say in a primary class, when a teacher goes and sings a song like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are, it is not the words that matter, but it's the joy that matters. It is a relationship that you create with a child, and taking the child out of the formal bondings of knowledge. That's very, very important as you go there. So coming back to the ECCE, right? The early childhood education and care, right? One of the major problems in India has been that the nutrient factor for the children has not been really very adequate. Two things have happened in the recent past. For years together, especially in the post-independent area, by the age, there has been lesser focus on nutrition as compared to the earlier time. Number two is also further substantiated by the social changes from a joint family system to a nuclear family system, and now to almost a broken family system. That what we have. The supports for food and other things have decreased, and therefore we have opted for fast food, we have opted for fancy foods, we have opted for food fats, all that leading to what you call filling the stomach rather than filling the nutrient requirements of the child. And therefore, there is enough evidence to say, show that our children have what you call an apparent health profile rather than an actual health profile, right? Apparent health profile may make them shine and look better, but their basic organic structures are getting weak. So in Indian education system, we have to address the nutritional aspect. We have got to address the emotional aspect. Why emotional aspect? Because 30 years, 40 years before, when we had a family system, mostly the mothers took care of the children, at least for a couple of growing years. But now, given the social factor where most of our women folk are gainfully engaged for employment, which has become an absolute necessity, not only because of the financial consideration, but because of the intellectual and equity consideration between the men and the women. And therefore, there is inadequate time for the child to be given, and therefore there is an emotional hangover for the child to come. So the policy focuses on flexible, multifaceted, multi-level, play-based, activity-based, inquiry-based learning consists of. So remember one thing: it does not matter how much the child has learned. It does not matter whether the child counts 1 to 20 or 1 to 50. Doesn't matter. But that whether the child is willing to engage himself or herself is all that matters. You remember one thing: all that you talk of English, mathematics, or that, they are all only disciplines of learning. All that is required is the what do you call learning behavior, yeah, the ability to know how to learn, right? So, but teaching the children on learning how to learn is more important rather than that, and more important than that, the primary level, in Tamil there is a very interesting statement: ஐந்தில் விளையாதது ஐம்பதில் விளையுமா அறுபதில் விளையுமான்னு. So what does that really mean? That means that certain behavioral aspects which are brought in, cultural aspects which are brought in, they form strong networking in the brain. Therefore, we talk about the heritage, legacy, culture, religion, all that values, all that what we talk at the formative years, either at home or at the school. These are very, very important because the profile of the child at the future will be based upon these things. What my mother. I want to share a very interesting story with you, that one of the former directors of NCRT told me about 20 years back, that when he went to, when he went to a village school, right, a boy in class 3 had appeared in mathematics, and then he got 97 marks out of 100, right, and got all the answers correct, but he did not write one question, he did not reply. So when the teacher asked that why he has not answered that question, right, the boy said very interestingly, sir, this is a subtraction question, and in the subtraction question, I have to borrow from one number from the second digit, and my father has told me that I should not borrow it from anybody. So I didn't want to borrow, and therefore I have not answered this question. See how an impact of a concept, a value has impacted the learning behavior of the child. I'm not sitting in judgment whether it's right or wrong, but the question is that the values are decided. Therefore, when you talk of early childhood care and education, this is also an aspect of care. Care doesn't mean a medical care. Care doesn't mean a physical care. Care also means the psychological care, the intellectual care that we give it to the children. Therefore, the policy, when it talks about the early childhood, it talks about 0 to 3 years and 3 to 6 years, right? The objectives are to give access to free, safe, high quality education, developmentally appropriate. Now, this is a very interesting term, developmentally appropriate. How do you define that? You just can't define that because it will vary depending upon the place of the learning, right? You are in a village, you are in a city, for example, right? You are in Pattivirambatti in a village, you are in Madurai, or you are in Madras, or you are in Bangalore, or you are in Delhi. Depending on that, the appropriacy, because child in Delhi and Chennai may be using an iPhone, whereas a child in Pattivirambatti may not be having that kind of a facility. But nevertheless, though we have all that coming through blended learning at this point of time, but these are certain challenges. So my teachers, my principals should know that the word developmental appropriacy is something that has to be defined by them. Don't try to copy what happens at Chennai to be put in Madurai, or what happens in Madurai to be done in a village nearby, right? You have to design your own curriculum and pedagogy, and the objectives have to be based on goodness, moral values, thoughtfulness, creativity, empathy, and a productive human being, making productive human. I will focus only on two words: thoughtfulness and empathy. I think the current society needs children who are very thoughtful. It needs children who are very creative, right? Therefore, kindly focus on that. It doesn't matter whether you cover the syllabus or not. It is very unfortunate that we are only using the word covering the syllabus. Covering the syllabus, actually, we should be discovering the syllabus at this point of time, right? Now, a very interesting case of a teacher walking into UKG class, right? And the child was drawing something, and the teacher asked the child, it was in somewhere in north. So the teacher asked, "Beta, what are you doing?" "Ma'am, I am drawing." "What are you drawing?" "Ma'am, I am drawing God." The teacher said, "How can you draw God? I have not shown you God. You have not seen God. How will you draw God?" The child smiled and said, "Ma'am, please wait. Let me finish. I will show you the God." So every child has a God within, right? And that's what the child wants to, do that, right? So I think, so remember that when it comes to 3 to 6 years, the very important thing, most of these skills you would have already been doing at it. But one thing which I am very particular and I am impressed with what the policy talks about is what is called self-help skills. I think in Indian environment, in Indian education, even at the age of 3 to 6, we are creating a lot of dependency, and children are not allowed to be self-dependent. As a matter of fact, right from the polishing a shoe, putting in the socks onwards, everything is being conditioned. And that it doesn't matter if the child doesn't do well, if the child is not adequate, but help the child to know. Once they fail, second time they fail, third time they fail, but then remember, it has to grow at a point of time. We are great facilitators, and how that could be facilitated, it's a very interesting story. Just for a break, I wanted to share a very interesting thing that happened in my own life, right? When I was studying in class 3, I remember, right? One day, it was in 52, 53. I went to my mother and asked for what is called, we used to have a kalana on those time. Kalana means is about 3 paise at that point of time. And one kalana, you will get 3 kadlamatais at this point of time. So I went and asked for kalana, and they didn't give me. But one of my uncles who was sitting nearby, he said, "You will get a kalana every day, provided you are able to recite 10 Tirukural every day." Right? You wouldn't believe, for that one Tirukural, the Kalna, I learned 10 Tirukural every day. You wouldn't believe, nearly 600 Tirukurals I learned over a period of time there. And it was a reward system, reward punishment system. Now, encouragement, facilitation, impact. There are certain direct learning processes, there are certain indirect learning processes. Very important that both formal and informal learning have got to be encouraged at the primary level. My primary teachers sitting here, my principals, headmisters, they should understand that increasingly informal learning is becoming a stronger potential at the formative level. Therefore, your ability to accept the child, whatever they know from outside world, and integrate that in the class is very, very important. That is the head. So self-help skills, please focus on that. I think that with increasing self-confidence, even if you talk of emotional intelligence, in the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence, the first thing by the child is is that in class LKG, UKG 1 is that what's called who am I, right? Understanding the self is very important. Class 3 to 5, it is what is called self acceptance, accepting myself with my beauty, my height, my body, my environment, accepting. So the logistics goes on. But remember, from 0 to 6 years, that because self-esteem, self-confidence is very, very important, because most of our social problems at later years come because people don't have self-esteem, people don't have a self-concept about that. So all your learning in the primary years should focus on that. So the methods approach prescribed by the NEP talks about supervised play-bound education, time-tested Indian methods of cognitive, and this one. Under 8 years of age, children do not follow the linear age-based studying. The very important statement, scientific, neurologically validated statement, which says that the brain does not learn linearly, right? Now, you tell the child to learn 1 to 100, they may not learn in the linear way. Therefore, we are now in a world where integrated learning, interactive learning, multi-layer learning, multi-polar learning is happening, right? Because the media is open, the channels of learning are open. So learning is not happening singular way. Therefore, more so at the primary level, pre-primary level, you must understand. Maybe you are singing a film song, no problem. Sing a film song in the class. So long the children dance with you, enjoy with you. We talk today about what is called happiness curriculum for the primary classes. I don't know how many of you have heard this particular idea, though CBSE had that. The NEP, National Education Policy, has also made a reference of this, and the Delhi government, Delhi Education Board, has used happiness curriculum as a part of the primary classes. Now, what is a happiness curriculum? Though I am a little allergic to this word for the simple reason I believe that the adjective happiness is very demeaning, because the objective of curriculum itself is happiness, right? If the objective of curriculum is itself happiness, why do we need a happiness curriculum at all, right? Nevertheless, now one thing which is missing in our school system is happiness, right? And how do we make a child happy is by letting the child be what he is, by be what she is, right? Recognition of the child with all the strengths and weaknesses is very important. And I mean, children, I know children who have not performed very well in the primary classes, but have got even very recently Nobel laureate in chemistry said that he was a failure in chemistry in the school, but then he could get through a Nobel Prize. So do not try to be judgmental about the children. And the National Policy of Education, says as far as possible there should not be what do you call negative assessment, no, not even assessments. What do you call, only observations are to be there at the primary point of time. Now, how do you adopt that? Now, the methods will prescribe all that you are already doing. But then I want to share something with that. When you talk about stories or poetry in the primary class, it's an excellent method. Unfortunately, we have killed the concept of stories in the class. If you look at the in the Indian mythology, you will find that most of our learning in the Indian mythology was based on storytelling. But today, my teachers, when they go to class to tell the story, it is absolutely, yeah, like a stale food that they are giving, without a bland diet they are giving. There are no emotions. It is more on thrill, right? So there are 32 different ways of telling a story, right? And I think schools will do very well to invite people who are experts in storytelling. There are a number of people available in this country, and train the teachers. Your Sahodiyas can do that on storytelling. Teaching poetry, that's another entirely thing. That's the emotional connect between the teacher and the child. Even today, when I go back, though I'm a student of chemistry, I used to cut my classes of chemistry, go and stand outside the English classes, English language and literature class, when I had a great professor called Ram Swami in Presidency College. When he used to teach Shakespeare, when he used to teach Hamlet, I used to just stand outside. And I still remember when my professor taught me Merchant of Venice, when he said, a goodly apple rotten of the heart, he became a Shylock. And that's where poetry teaching is a fantastic emotional connect between the teacher and the child. And all that is missing today, because we are looking at the letters and not at the spirit of teaching. So remember the last three things which are given: enjoyment, excitement, creativity, all that leading to a sense of identity. Most of our children today are suffering from an identity crisis, and that has to be nullified by that, right? Now, this may not be relevant to your Sahodaya, but nevertheless, I will tell you that when it comes to structural inputs for ECCE, national policy talks about bringing Anganwadis to the school sector, right? Though it applies more to the government schools at this point of time, because Anganwadis are presently managed by people who are not well trained, who are not academically oriented. So the policy says that there has to be adequate trained people, trained in the psychological competencies of young children, who should be facilitating learning behaviors in the children. And that is one thing which is talked about. Now, the third class class 3 to 5, that policy also talks about moving from what you call the foundation, moving towards foundational literacy and numeracy. It's a very painful thing that at the international examinations conducted, many of our children of class 6 and 7 do not have the competencies which are of class 2 and 3, and therefore there has been a matter of concern, right? So the question basically is that how do you create that environment for learning? All this because mostly that we have been having a teacher dominated classroom where a component of fear has been ruling over the children, and therefore their learning has been done. I think this is not much over here, but the fundamental thing that what I want to tell you is a classroom should be a fear free classroom, right? So play, I'm repeating what is given there: play, discovery, activity based education, gradual incorporation of textbooks. What do you mean? That beyond class 3, 1, 2, 3, like that, you should go on doing that, right? And formal classroom learning inputs. This is where there is a conflict that, yeah, what is a formal classroom? A formal classroom is not merely 4 walls over that. A classroom is where there is an idea is dissected, a concept is deliberated. Now, right from class 3, there are provisions for flipped classrooms. There are provisions for blended learning coming through. And it's very high time that we in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, we start moving towards flipped classrooms and blended classrooms, where the focus is going to be on self-learning. Remember, don't get into argument with anybody that self-learning is not possible for children of class 3 and 5. Self-learning was basically, most of our farmers in our villages were self-learners, and they learned much better than some of the agricultural graduates who did that. So self-learning is a naturalistic phenomena at this point of time. One of the other factors the national policy talks about at the primary level is about what you call mother tongue as a medium. There is no second opinion about the relevance of mother tongue, but nevertheless, some of our schools are English medium schools. But remember one thing, that competency in English, competency in other languages is good enough for growth, but the absence of it is not necessarily a roadblock. And one important thing is that in this policy, the 3-language formula has been slightly modified to the extent that in the earlier policy, we had Hindi as a compulsory component out of the 3 languages. But this time, we said that one mother tongue as a first language and any 2 modern Indian languages, out of which one could be the state language, which is done. So the idea of the mother tongue is changing. The 3-language formula is changing, and also you find that a foreign language which children started right in class 5 will no more be valid. It will be from 9th class only foreign languages can be used at this point of time, right? Now, so all that leads to 4 domains of learning: formal learning, informal learning, incidental learning, and accidental learning. And all these things happen. That's one of the reasons that the national policy has taken away the barrier between what you call scholastic and co-scholastic, curricular and co-curricular, and then the academic and vocational. They have taken out these iron curtains, and they said we will have an integrated learning and integral learning. So with all that, remember, I'm just going to take a few slides on the emotional competencies which we need to know. Right, with the point when the child walks into the school, remember, to me, a child entering the school is as good as a young lady who just got married walking into the in-laws house. There is absolutely no difference between, or a young man who is interviewed walking into a company. No difference, right? Why? Or the common things are moving from known to unknown, moving from spontaneity to order. What is spontaneity to order? In the house, the child can be any way. The child can be moving with an undergarment, playing around, rolling down, all that. But when the child goes to school, you have got a tie, you have got to wear a shirt, shoes, sit there, don't move, go in a line. So we move from spontaneity to order. We move from familiar to unfamiliar situations, right? And also we move from free response system to conditioned response. What a free response system? In the house, when mother says something or somebody pulls up something, the child shouts or cries or weeps, but they cannot do in that thing, the school system. So remember that what happens when the child is admitted into a school is a psychological rehabilitation that's happening. So my teachers should understand that their role is not only to teach the children of the numbers and the letters over there, but to this is what is called early childhood care. Right now, that's a very important thing. Today, I celebrate my primary teachers very much as compared to my professors at this point of time. So, primary teachers are very well recognized. So, remember all the title teachers. You, I would be happy if you can take a training program on each of these areas. What do you mean by known to unknown? What do you mean by spontaneity to order? For all your Sahodaya group, each topic could be done separately and educate the primary teachers on handling these kind of psychological issues. Or maybe you've got counselors who will do that. Right? Now, when the child comes to the school, what are the things the child faces certain change. Now, the child comes with a sense of fear, right? So what the school should do, eliminating the fear, providing reassurance that you are as comfortable here as at home, assuring a sense of security, enhancing the comfort level, and providing an user self-ready, friendly environment. This is what really the school needs to be done, right? No, it needs to do. And how you do it will vary from school to school. There are no standard procedures, but every school should have its own standard operating procedures. This is a very important thing. SOP and all these things should be recorded and kept on record, because tomorrow you got any legal issues with the parents, you will know these are my SOPs. This is what my teachers are to follow, and that has to be done, right? And remember, from the child's side, the kind of emotions the child comes to the school is sense of doubt. Teacher, what they will do, what will happen, sense of suspense, say surprise, fear, curiosity, insecurity. And this is where that early childhood care, emotional care has got to be managed over there. As a matter of fact, you must debate in your schools, the primary school teachers, KG teachers sit together that what do you mean by doubt? What kind of doubts the children will have? What will be the frequently asked questions on that? Consolidate them, prepare them. That's what the school needs to become professionally. Unfortunately, in India, right, most professions, medical, legal, and others have become highly professional, whereas teaching profession is not becoming professional. We have a professional degree, but not a professional competency. This gap needs to be done. I think that's where your Sahodia could work on some of these ideas over there. Okay, so uh, how do you do all these things? You have to create a sense of ownership with the child, right? Trust is a very important thing. I've seen in many schools abroad that the teachers trust the children and ask them to do it, creating a sense of ownership, facilitating participation. And now this is a very important thing. I find in many schools, even when the principal walks in, teacher says, so all of you say good morning, you'll find a few children will be saying good morning, the children will be, because they are not participative. So that's where the psychology of the teachers has to work and to find out. So giving them adequate freedom, right? For example, the child wants to have a glass of water, right? No, you should not do it, take water during the period. Please don't do that, for the reason psychologically it is said that dehydration is a great threat to learning. A child who wants water and doesn't have, even with 5 minutes, you will find the whole memory will be lost, the whole deviation will take place from attention. So remember some of these things. Probably you need a separate training program for your primary teachers, nursery teachers, and handling some of these issues like your peer interaction is a very interesting thing in primary level. Remember, peer interaction at the school level is different, peer interaction at the college level is different, peer interaction at the primary level is different, right? Peer interaction at the primary level is more on emotional basis and more on what is called, I told you about the mirror neurons. For example, you find that one child in the class 1 or 2 stands up and says, ma'am, I want to go to bathroom, right? So you say, okay, you'll find immediately another child will come, the third child will come, you'll find half the classroom is in the bathroom at the time. Similarly, right, one child is doing something, this the boy will come and say, ma'am, that fellow is pricking me, ma'am, that fellow is, all this because the amygdala in the brain of the child is fast developing as against the frontal lobe at the formative years. So they have got emotional brain active faster than the what you call the thinking brain, which is different when they come to class 6. So when you talk of the early childhood care, you should remember that you must be able to moderate the emotions of the children that you need separate coaching on that. Remember that creating a good healthy relationship between the child. As a matter of fact, you will, I know as per principals, you will get a lot of complaints. One parent coming and telling you, ma'am, that boy kid my son over here. You will find big, you could have solved 100 crore issue easily, but solving the problem between two parents, that would have been much more difficult. So some of these things need to be understood, done. So that when you talk of early childhood care, please don't think that selecting a book is alone is a job. So doing what do you call putting a lot of displays in the classroom is a good classroom. No, a competent teacher, a supportive teacher, an understanding teacher, and what do you call a teacher who understands multiple intelligences, because today multiple intelligences is becoming a very important criteria right from class 1 onwards over there. And that's the time when all these intelligences develop. Okay, right? As you come to higher classes, some of them surface and manifest, but growth of all the 10 different intelligences can grow only at the primary level. So remember, you should have a separate program of facilitating growth of multiple intelligences. The policy talks about the multiple intelligences and emotional intelligence as a vital ingredient for the future growth, right? So the children suffer because new environment, new relationship, limiting space, schedules of time, threat to privacy, threat to expressions, and lack of empathy. These are all the things that the early childhood care needs to be worked it out. Some of these infrastructural issues schools have in the early childhood care. For example, distance to the school. A child is coming by a bus, right? And it takes 1 hour for the bus to come. Many children, sleep over the bus itself. I've seen in Delhi some of the schools carrying a loaf of bread on the hand because the school is 7 o'clock. They run with a loaf of bread on the hand. So they are hungry. They don't have the. So your issues, distance to the school, time of transfer. School buses are left at the gate. For a small child of class 1, walking all the way from the gate to the classroom is itself is a big ordeal, especially in the morning. And if the weather is bad, right? Positioning of the classroom, the infrastructure, very important. I've seen schools where class 1 and 2 are kept in the first floor, which is not correct, right? So positioning, inappropriate furniture, that's a very important thing. Or the light in the classroom. A lot of research has been done about the impact of light, air, and what do you call comfort levels in the class. Separate books have been written on that, right? And I can talk about give us some references of books to you if you are interested subsequently. Or I have also written about many of these things in my book, which is available free of cost in my own website, right? If you can go to my website called balaspeaks.in, you will have at least 4 books available to you where I have discussed some of these issues. You can take it, right? So restricted movements, restroom issues are all issues of the childhood care. So then the most important thing which I wanted to talk to you is the emotional threats to the child. Now, what is meant by emotional blandness? Sometimes you ask a question, the child will be looking just at you, no reactions, right? Bland, like a bland diet. You will say, Kya Buddhu? You are just sitting so, like a stupid. The teacher will use a word. Why emotional blandness? It could be out of fear. It could be out of something happening at home, right? Truncated emotions. Suddenly, I've seen children in KG classes and class 1. They are sitting, suddenly they start sobbing. Why? At home, they have had a bad experience. They cried over there and they left, terminated that there. But now their mind recalls that and those emotions come. So truncated emotions, curtailed emotions, emotional conflicts that they have, right? They show emotional tantrums over there. Emotional conflicts because at home, the mother says, Dekho, you see your brother, कैसे कर रहा है, see your sister कैसे कर रहा है. So all these kinds of conflicts would lead to some kind of a depression, some kind of a low self-esteem, and all these things come back into the class. You think that the primary children don't know, but remember one thing, primary children are more conscious of all these things as compared to grown-up children. For grown-up children, there are other outlets for expression of emotions, whereas primary children, there are no outlets at this point of time. So maybe personal issues, some of these issues that you think is not there. The uniform is uncomfortable, the weather is uncomfortable, the food is inadequate, the child is hungry, the child feels sleepy. 100 reasons for so when you talk of early childhood care at the primary level, it's a very simple one word. But if you go and start what do you call deep learning inside, analyze it in terms of intellectualism, in terms of emotionalism, behavioral sciences, you will find there are hundreds and hundreds of issues that a school leader needs to understand. You imagine a school where a child of class 2, right, went to play in the ground, removing the shoes, keeping it aside because the PT master said keep the shoes aside and come with barefoot. They went to the ground. When they came back and the girl child put the shoes on, right, in a few minutes she died because the black scorpion had entered inside the king scorpion has entered inside the shoe, and the child was bitten and died. And there are so many issues that I don't want to deliberate because you will identify the school. I've got hundreds of case studies of this kind. So remember that no principal, no headmistress, no primary teacher can take things for granted. That's the most important message I wanted to give you. Teaching a lower class, primary class is much more responsible than mentoring a PhD, right? Right? So you are, as a matter of fact, the entire salary structure should have been reversed. Primary teacher should have been paid the highest in the country as compared to a PhD professor, whatnot. The kind of, but at the same time, they also need to have the kind of competencies that are required for that. That's what I need to say. So some of the issues that you are having, emotional issues, siblings are not treated properly at home. There is no time for parents to attend to the child. I've got hundreds of case studies like that, how it grows up at a later stage, how it reacts towards the parents is a very important thing. There is a parental conflict at home. Now remember, at the class 3 child, the class 3 teacher goes and asks the child, who built Taj Mahal? The child stands blank. He doesn't reply. Now, teacher says, hey, you don't even know who built Taj Mahal. You know what the child is thinking? The child is thinking that Taj Mahal at my house is getting demolished. My father and mother had talking of divorce in the morning. The Taj Mahal at home is divorce, cracking. And you are asking me who built the Taj Mahal? Emotional conflict. You wouldn't understand that. So I've got hundreds of case studies of such kind. Just I wanted to bring to you, because when you talk of emotional care and education, education is something which you will give. I'll give a few slides on that. But remember, this is more academic issue. The learner has a language problem. He has migrated from one different country, one different state, and therefore there is a language problem. The learner is a slow learner. How do you define a slow learner? Slow learner is not because there is a brain deficiency, because there is an aptitudinal defect over there. So there could be 100 reasons for the slow learning, right? The learner suffers from dyslexia. It's very important to identify dyslexia right at the formative stage, right? The learner is not motivated to a subject. The child wants to draw a picture, but you want him to see mathematics. There is a conflict of interest, right? So some of these academic issues, teaching competencies. Teachers should not be militant in the classroom. They should be friendly. They should be approachable. They should be motherly in the classroom over there. They should be working on what is called intimate zone. What do you mean by that? You go to a primary child of class 1, just go and touch the child and say, hi, how are you? Now you will find the child will go to the mother and say, mommy, my teacher hugged me today. You will not have hugged you or just touched over there. So the kind of touch, but that's what called, there are 4 different zones of relationship between the teacher and the child. And the primary level is what's called the intimate zone. So, when I say the intimate zone by touch, you must also understand the difference between the good touch and the bad touch, because you can't take these for granted with the kind of issues that you are having at this point of time. So what should be the approach to pedagogy? Very quick few slides. 1, play, fun, music, dance, stories, activities. Focus on theater, group work, role play, simulation, body language. because these are all very, very important to create what is called uh, we are in a world today of what do you call social construction of knowledge. We are in what do you call connectivist world. The latest philosophy of education is connectivism, right? Connectivism. Therefore, you got Wikipedia, you got Facebook. All these are examples of social connectivism, and that's why you have to focus on connective learning of the subject, right? Must focus on skills that you need to do: seeing, observing, recollecting, repeating, recording, differentiating. These are the basic skills. If you can teach these 5 skills through all your subjects, you have done the job. The child will absolutely learn, because seeing is different from observing, right? Observing is important to recollect. Now, recollecting is not only memory, rather it's a recapturing, right? The ability to repeat, right? Repeating. All these would lead to some kind of skill. Similarly, listening, repeating, recalling, pronouncing, metering, rhythm. I mean, I don't have time for many of these things, but I want to take you to something over here. Approach to pedagogy in the class 3 to 5. 3 to 5 focus on self-concept, self-esteem, self-analysis, self-regulation. All these things are possible, absolutely possible. Only thing is you'll have to spend your time on that, right? So, friends, as we come through, because I'm left with only a few more minutes to do that. I've already said that you have a lot of what do you call opportunities for creating a base of learning over here, right? So I want to show only a few slides over here, and um, so yeah, yeah. I think I missed out the slide, but I will tell you the very important thing that you need to do in the early childhood care is mind-hand coordination, eye-hand coordination, right? Mind-word coordination, mind-ear coordination, right? Then what do you call hand-mouth coordination. So you can list along that. If you go to my website, you will find all kinds of these coordinations listed out there. There are 10 different coordinations. So whether you teach maths, whether you teach science, whether there is a mind-mind coordination, whether an eye-mind coordination, the eye is able to see and recognize, right? Eye is able to see and can write around. Eye-mind-hand coordination. Child listens and then absorbs and writes. So you got ear hand coordination. So you have to identify in terms of developing skills of the organic skills of the body, and then integrate body, mind, and intelligence together to make a holistic child. I think that is the message with which I would like to leave you, because it's an ocean, and in this ocean, my job was only to provoke your thinking as far as the ECC is concerned in the light of the national education policy. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those questions.
So can we just take few questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, how will preschool prepare the child for kindergarten? Now we're talking about ECC, early childhood care and education. But before even coming to kindergarten, how will the preschool prepare the children for kindergarten?
That's why I talked to you, Shweta, about 0 to 3 years.
Okay.
Okay. Preschool experiences. If you look at the policy, it says preparing the child for the school. That's a terminology that they're using over there.
Right.
Preparing the child for the school, right? So it is a process, just like, you create employability skills for employment, right? Similarly, you prepare a boy or a girl to get good enough to get married. Similarly, you prepare a child to be psychologically, emotionally ready for psychological rehabilitation. Okay. That's a responsibility of the parents, right?
Right.
And lots of lots of books and lots of guidelines are available both on the site as well as in the print media for this. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay. Teachers, if there are any questions that you would like to post to Bala sir, I would request you all to please put it here on the chat box. I'll take your questions and read it out for sir. So meanwhile, there's another question. Would you feel the most exciting or effective learning environment would be for the children?
You see, there is nothing called exciting. It's all about freedom. When the child is free from fear, the child is willing to learn, willing to adventure, willing to experiment. The greatest threat is the fear of people, fear of environment. So the most important thing that we will contribute is to facilitate, to let the child be, and that's a happiness, real happiness, right? See, if I am sitting in a library and I want to take a book, somebody say, don't take this book. You can't go there. You can't. So the control systems are what you are doing that,
Okay.
Therefore, the basic thing is why in our country, why we are not getting Nobel Prizes and all, because we have all been conditioned to learning. We have all
Exactly.
what we should learn. But others decide what we should learn rather than what. Therefore, we should open up learning, letting the children to be. That's what the 4 pillars of learning. The last pillar is about learning to be. Okay, that's very important.
And there's another question. Do you think standardized testing is the most effective way to judge learning?
It's the most harmful way of deciding learning. See, to be very honest, we have seen that pictures of what you call, a monkey and an elephant and a lion and everybody, being tested across. So my only question is, the objective of education is to identify competencies rather than deficiencies. Okay. What has happened in our system is we gave with 35 mark as a pass mark.
Yes.
That is what Macaulay's gift to us. When in Oxford the pass mark was 65, in India it was 35. We accept 65% incompetency through a pass. You understand? We need to reposition ourselves that
Right.
it's not 30% which matters. It is 99% or 100% that matters. So
Correct.
whatever you do, whatever you learn, you must be excelling in that. That's more important rather than what all you have learned.
Correct.
Right? We put our hands in everything and we are not good in anything.
Right.
That shouldn't be there.
There's another question by a teacher. She's asking, will the textbooks be revised to meet the expectations from NEP?
Well, let me tell you one thing. The NCRT is on the job. But to me, as a teacher, I have been a teacher for 17 years. The only thing which I never carried to my classroom is a textbook. And the moment I enter my, the students in my class will simply say, you see, master has come, please close your books. I believe that textbooks are only help books. They limit your thinking. They are all, very often I used to tell in my programs, textbooks and curriculum is like a runway for an aircraft to take off. People should fly beyond that. Not if my pilot says I can't fly beyond the runway, what will happen to the aircraft? So you must open them beyond the textbook, right? And therefore, a good textbooks are necessary, but teachers inspire the learners, right? Inspire the learners. That's where the role of teaching comes.
What about special students, as we are insisting on inclusive education? How it will be helpful for them?
See, it's a very debatable topic in the point of time. See, inclusivity has many phases: physical handicaps, intellectual, neurological handicaps, emotional handicaps. There are many. So integrating them, every case is a special case. Every case has to be examined on its own merit and the level of integration has to be taken, right? Because even when you talk about ADHD or other dyslexia, there are several levels and grades of that. So you cannot say that all people with the ADHD are all, no. There could be that. So therefore, it will be impertinent to give a general answer for this. What I would say is, yes, I've seen hundreds of inclusive children. I'll give an example to you. When I was the controller of examinations in board, a case came to me when a child of class 9 saying that I have some problem, inclusion problem. Therefore, I don't want to do science because I can't do practical. Can I take some other subject? We gave a special permission to take music in 10th class at that point of time.
Okay.
Good music. You wouldn't believe she topped the whole country in music.
Oh.
In spite of our inclusive the challenges. So the point basically, you should celebrate what is available, what is good, rather than comparing it with others.
Yeah, right, sir. So on same lines, there's a question again: how can we recognize a special need or any behavior issue in children from 0 to 3 years?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting and very important question. Uh, you know, uh, One major problem at this point of time is, even if some of these issues exist, parents hesitate to accept that. A
Right.
large number of cases, parents say, oh, the problem is with the teacher, not with the child. That's number one. Number two, sometimes the teachers are over enthusiastic if the child doesn't do something properly, and they say, oh, this child is dyslexic, this child is a slow learner. The question is, this may be an emotional problem, not a psychological problem. So either way, it hits. All that is need. Every school should have a counselor, and this should be a professionally evaluated issue rather than a teacher or a parent coming to I have seen cases where I have identified children in class 1-2 with severe problems. They could not connect their eyes with the teachers and others, but parents won't accept. But later, when these children grew up to 9 to 10 years, it was almost a disaster because it was not attended to properly at the formative age. So all that needs is acceptance.
True. Yeah, because for every parent, their children or their child is like best in everything. So they basically don't want to see any flaw or anything that is missing. So
Yeah, see, no child is 100% perfect, and
exactly.
they shouldn't be. That's what the life is all about. So we need to accept them and empower them to grow what they are.
Yes, sir. Okay. Now, a teacher is asking, how do we contact sir for such workshops? You can contact us. We are from Madhuban, and we will definitely schedule webinars and workshops for you.
No,
And
Shweta,
yes, sir.
what I could say is many of my programs, videos are all already in my website. So any of them want to go to my articles on issues website, they can just go to my website and take it off. That's the simplest thing.
So you can please log into sir's website and also see his programs, because sir's already posting programs there. And along with that, if you need any webinar or workshop for your schools exclusively, you can contact us. We are from Madhuban, and we shall help you to get webinars and workshops done for your schools. Now, so you were talking about some websites. So teachers asked if you can mention the names of the website.
It's a very simple thing. Balaspeaks.in.
Okay. Balaspeaks.in.
Balaspeaks.in.
Okay, sir. So
You can just go into that and then they can.
If there are any further questions, you can write into us. We will get answers for all your questions. Before we wind up, from Madhuban, we have a very small presentation on a new platform, because Bala sir was also talking about blended learning. So on same lines, we have a very small, I will not take much of your time because I know all of you have sat through the entire session. So I will quickly take you through this PPT, and it is called Wait, I'll just do it full screen before we move on. I hope all of you are able to see my screen. Okay, so Madhuban Educational Books is come up in lines with where NEP is talking about blended learning. And what is blended learning? Why blended learning? The whole country, the whole world is talking about blended learning, because this is going to be, or this is the new normal now, where you will have to make sure all your children are attending classes both online, and plus you have a teacher facilitated classrooms as well. So which was the traditional method, but along with this we have the online as well now. Now we at Madhuban have come up with Educate 360 one-stop blended learning solution. So all the problems that you're facing in school, that is, if you have issues of ebook, printed book, digital supplements, integrated platform, concept videos, teacher manual, teacher training, assessment, internet links, and ease of access. So these are all the entire product package. Now the issue is you've been conducting classes from, you have the content, but you are sourcing out the platform from someone else. So if you're using Zoom, you have a publisher like Madhuban, you are putting your Madhuban's content on Zoom platform and conducting your online classes. Right. So in this case, when you log on to Educate 360 degree platform, you won't have such challenges. You can conduct your classes because we are saying you have integrated platform. So we are giving you the integrated platform where you can log into our platform and you can directly conduct classes, or you can also still, if you are logging to Zoom or Google Classroom or anything, you can still go ahead doing that and have all of this on our platform. You don't have to keep switching between platforms. And it also facilitates academic blending, strategic blending, resource blending, and learning styles, which means your curriculum is there, pedagogy, assessment, skills, all of this have been taken care of. And Educate 360 degree, to emphasize more, is more on self-learning, which is, I am saying, it motivates. I can learn on myself after the teacher's finished her session, after she's conducted her class. When I have to sit and read as a child, I can learn on my own. It also enables peer learning. So 2-3 children sitting and learning together, we are enabling all that under this platform. Plus all the resources, all the digital resources along with your print resources are available. And it is text-based, digital, flipped classroom, home, and blended. Now, this is in sync with national education policy. That is the focus, because everybody is talking about NEP, and the next academic year, which is 22-23, we all are going to have NEP in place with NCF in line, and we will have all the books in lines with NEP. So it emphasizes, or it encourages art education, digital learning, freedom to learn, experiential learning, along with your periodic assessment, collaborative learning, critical thinking, and technology integration. So all of this is already there in Educate 360, along with your 21st century learning skills. Okay. Now, what is the benefit of Educate 360? To schools and to teachers, it is this may help the schools to comply with government guidelines of having limited number of students in class. Like post-COVID, even after vaccines, if we start off, schools have started opening, but now mostly only 9th and 11th, and 10th and 12th and 9th and 11th are coming. Moving on, we might have to restrict number of children coming to school, or even if children are coming, once they go back home, they still have this online. They still have this online platform where they can continue their learning. Virtual classroom is available, blended learning, and this is one-stop solution for learning, because any child can use it at any point in time, anywhere, any child. Teacher can use it, and children can use it. Okay, now before we move on, I'll play the video for you.
With the world coming to an unexpected standstill in the middle of the year, imparting education became the biggest challenge. Schools were shut and everybody was in a lockdown. Educators across the country immediately rose to the occasion and found innovative ways to combat the situation. They met with a lot of roadblocks on the way, like the availability of textbooks, planning of lessons, conducting classes and assessments, and giving feedback. Madhuban Educational Books, an organization committed to provide the most innovative and best-in-class learning product to every young Indian learner, brings to you Educate 360 Degrees, a one-stop blended learning solution for schools that aim to address all the roadblocks faced by our educators. Educate 360 provides access to teachers, students and parents to ensure a 360-degree connect between each user. Each lesson has been organized into 3 distinct steps: learn, practice, assess. Detailed guided lesson plans help the educators to navigate through these steps seamlessly. Homework and assessments can be created or selected from a bank of questions by the teachers and assigned to the students with a well-defined timeline for each submission. For every assignment or assessment, detailed reports are generated for each student. These analytics assist in personalized learning of individuals by highlighting the focus areas for each student. This allows teachers to understand and manage their classrooms in a much better way. Hand-holding and training for the teachers at regular intervals by our certified experts in blended learning will ensure seamless use of the platform and professional development of all our educators, thus making sure that nothing hinders a smooth teaching-learning process. So, Educate 360 Degrees, an online platform, is here to make teaching and learning easy and effective. It will provide textbooks as e-books, a platform for live classes, digital supplements, assignments, assessments, feedback, and lesson plans all at one place. Say goodbye to shifting from one platform to another.
Okay, so before moving on, I'll just show you how the platform looks like, because we're all talking about it. So I'll just show you how the platform looks like, and I will just take another 3 minutes, not more than that. So you'll just have to enter your username. Every teacher will be given a username and a password. Along with every child also will be given a username and a password. You can just log in with your username, password. Whatever books you are using, your school is using, we will upload all the books here in the learn section. For teacher, it is learn. For uh, in the learn section, and then you have this homework, so you can assign homework for the children. You can create homework, you can assign homework. We have assessment uploaded here, so a teacher can create assessment, upload assessment. There are 2 types: online assessment and pen and paper. So you can just upload the assessment here and children can take up the assessment. Online assessment will help you with the analytics also. So teacher doesn't have to really sit on analytics and work on it. The system will automatically generate the analytics, and it will show the focus area where the teacher needs to concentrate on which child more. Then you have these live classes, so you can schedule the live classes. You see here max fraction, there's a live class scheduled. So you can just click here and join the session. Children can just click here and join the session, and teacher can create a live class. Any notification the teacher wants to send, she can just send a notification. There's a PTM, discussion on the exam dates. There is this demo notification that we've created. And finally, it is the profile of that particular teacher or the child. Okay, and here you will have your school name and the logo, and I'll just open one of the book and show it to you how it looks like. So once you open this book, you will have entire chapter here, and you will also have the digital asset. As it was showing in the video, you have the learning section where you have a video, you have an animation, and you also have anything. These are reference links available. These are Viva OCs available. So much is available on the learning section. Then you have the practice. I'll just play one of the animation, but I've kept the audio on mute so that you can listen to what I'm talking. But you will also have this audio running. Every chapter has animation available. So you will have this animation available like this for all the chapters. Similarly, you will have other internet reference link. This will take you to a YouTube, or this will take you to a additional reference link based on the concept that we are talking about in this particular chapter. And then once you have this learn section done, you will have practice section where children can sit and practice on their own to see how far they have understood the concepts. And after the practice is over, this is inbuilt assessment. It comes, Madhuban has created this assessment. The assessment, what I showed you on the homepage, was the assessment that teacher can create and upload the assessment. So here again, you have objective assessment and subjective assessment. Children can just start. You will have the timer here, which will help them to see the analytics at the end. Similarly, you have a subjective assessment also. I'll just exit this. Similarly, you have the subjective assessment also, and children can take up. Again, the timer is there. The answer is locked for so many seconds, 7 seconds. And after the teacher is finished or the child is finished thinking what the answer is, they can just click here on show answer, and they can see whatever they have thought and what answer is reflecting if it is on the same lines. Like this, we have for all the chapter. And similarly, chapter analytics and everything's available. So to have a detailed demo presentation, you can contact Mr. Devanand. He is from Pondicherry. Devanand, can you just switch on your camera and show your face so that they will know whom to contact? So you can contact Devanand and we shall assist you with detailed demos. Since it is we are running out of time, I'm just giving you the gist of the platform. But I would request you to please contact Devanand and get in touch with us. Thank you so much for patient listening. And now, thank you, Bala sir, for such an enriching session, because to pay gratitude for all the knowledge sharing that you had done today with us, I would request Ms. Usha Rani, Secretary, Sahodaya School Complex, Puducherry, to please propose the vote of thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shweta.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Early childhood experiences are important to lifelong outcomes. Let us look at children as capable beings and lay the foundation for learning and holistic development. On behalf of SSCP, I would like to extend a wholehearted thanks to our guest speaker, Shri Balasubramanian, for the wonderful power-packed session. You touched all the arenas, sir. We were able to do a wonderful self-introspection too. As you mentioned, we will fly beyond textbooks, sir. We thank Mrs. Yashoda, the principal of Jawahar Vidyalaya Neyveli, for jointly hosting a wonderful session along with Madhuban Publications. We thank each and every member of Madhuban Publication team and SSCP for convening the webinar. I wish to thank our president, Mrs. Alice Kisku, principal of the study Ecology, Puducherry, treasurer, Mr. Marimuthu, principal of Vasavi International School, Puducherry, technical support officer, Mr. Farooq Mohammed, principal of Acharya Siksha Mandir, Puducherry, PRO, Mr. Ramu, principal of Shri Ram School, Dindivanam, our executive members, Mrs. Joy Thomas, principal of Good Shepherd Senior Secondary School, Karikal, Mr. Nadesan, principal of Aditya Vidyashram, Puducherry, Mrs. Kavita, principal of Acharya Balasiksha Mandir, Puducherry. Special big thanks to all the dear principals, academic coordinators, teachers for your presence here today's webinar. I once again thank each and everyone for the program. At the same time, we will be again meeting for a wonderful session on art integration on 9th of February at 4 p.m. Once again, a special thank to everybody present. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, teachers.
so
Thank
much.
you for being present this session today. Thank you all.